Yep, that's what 15 million euros looked like. But before we're gonna jump to this video, as usual, a quick update on some news in Ukraine and my life in particular. Less than a week ago, I went on a trip to Donbas, to Donetsk region. We delivered 2 pickup trucks and 2 vans donated by the volunteers to our military guys. And I personally was driving one of those vans, so I was a driver. That was my first visit to Donbas in 6 years. This is actually where I come from. I was born in the city of Lugansk in Donbas. And I can't properly express my feelings, but to see all those familiar landscapes was really emotional for me. We came through Kramatorsk and Slavyansk, the cities that are very close to the front line. Because of the blackout, the streets are not illuminated at all, which make them look creepy in the evening. And you can barely see the light coming from the windows. We reached some small village, I can tell you the name for security reasons, and checked in a small hotel when we intended to stay overnight. This hotel is also in complete disguise. There are no lights even inside the building. You have to use a flashlight in order to just move around. We sat down to have a dinner, and then the shelling began. I'll show you the footage, but keep in mind that it doesn't convey like my emotion and perception of that situation at all. So here it is.
Вон, смотри где.
Не вылазь к стеклам, не вылазь перед стеклом. Видно?
Да, вон там.
Apparently that was a strike from MLRS Grad, an old Soviet Union MLRS, and from what we know, they hit some residential building in just a couple 100 meters away from us. So it was really close. It was scary, and I just felt how this shockwave went through the building, and we were really frightened. 20 minutes later was another shelling, up to 10 explosions, and frankly speaking, I didn't manage to sleep that night at all, and I just can hardly imagine how people live in that village. The next morning we delivered some humanitarian aid to the locals and moved on to the city of Kramatorsk. There you feel that the war is getting close, as you encounter more and more soldiers and military vehicles on the way. And at the same time, the city is full of flowers, and it feels really strange and controversial, but this is what war is all about. My biggest insight of the trip was meeting with soldiers who are fighting on the front lines, and that was for sure like an eye-opener for me. Because like real soldiers, they don't necessarily look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando movie. They are humble, they are shy, and they are ready to die for the country. And some of them do. And this is something hard to consider, because as soon as you meet with these people, with the soldiers, their stories start becoming your stories. So you're getting closer to each other. And like I met 2 brothers, they are fighting on the front lines of Donbas, and they're military in the 5th generation of their family, and they are literally ready to give their lives in order to protect Ukrainian soil. And frankly speaking, I don't want to find out someday that something happened to these guys. With my friend Bogdan, we went to Chernigiv region to deliver some goods to our friends from Chernigiv Bomb Squad. Mikhailo and his good friend, bomb sniffing dog named Patron. If you are new to my channel, check this video about this specific unit and their important job. We delivered some clothes, shoes, gloves, bags, flashlights, and so on. Speaking about Patron, he has become even more popular than he used to be before. Each and every one of his appearances in public drive journalists like crazy. Another goal of our trip was bomb disposal. A certain number of journalists were allowed to capture this moment. The demolition site was pretty close, and all of the press was asked to go to the shelter. This is the footage of explosion. This blast was not as strong as the previous one, but it was scarier because you know what to expect.
Огонь!
And I can frankly say that I freaked out in a certain way. This bomb disposal took place near a small village of Yagidne, and I had a shooting there 2 months ago. This village is notoriously known for its school basement. Over 300 residents were held there by Russian soldiers for 25 days in this tiny room. And I can't imagine how people lived there for more than 3 weeks. 11 of them died due to the poor conditions in this basement. And what you see now are the names of these people and the dates of their deaths written on the wall. I shot the whole story about this village, but I still can't edit it and can't release it because it's really hard. We have a company called Good Wine in Kyiv, and basically these guys are selling wine. They're quite big, they have store and warehouse. Well, they had a warehouse. Now it looks like this. It has been completely destroyed during the battles in Kyiv region.
So basically that was our main warehouse. So we kept here 1.5, little bit more million bottles of wine. Some are really unique and expensive. And so basically the history of the company divided before 3rd of March and after, because on the 3rd of March the Russian missile burned our warehouse, and we lost 15 million euro in 1 hour.
This is where it's getting interesting. The right part of this warehouse was used by the Procter & Gamble company and contained a lot of household chemicals which are extremely flammable. Not surprisingly, it's completely destroyed. And the left side of the warehouse got relatively smaller damage. It happened because wine bottles fell from the shelves, broke and sort of extinguished themselves since the wine is not flammable. It means some bottles have survived. Therefore, over the past 1.5 months, the company's employees have been searching and extracting these survived bottles. It's not the easiest operation because it's a real mess there, and in addition, it's pretty unsafe since the whole structure of the warehouse is pretty unstable. I even accidentally captured how one of the shelves with alcohol collapsed. Luckily, no one was around. Some bottles looked okay, but the wine boiled away due to the high temperature. It turns out that some types of alcohol, whiskey and brandy in particular, even benefited from the fire, because they got some smoky notes which some people may like. All in all, only 2% of 1.5 million bottles in this warehouse have survived. And I want to show you something. So, this is the bottle of wine from that warehouse. It's dirty and it still have some smoky notes. Of course, I'm not gonna drink it. It's gonna be a part of my exhibition here in the studio. I received this bottle as a gift, but you actually can buy one of yours because guys selling these wine survivals in their website. I put the link in the description, and by the way, this is not an ad. It was my intention just to help guys because they actually donate some part of their income to Armed Forces of Ukraine, which is great. And the very last thing I want to mention. Sergei Pritula, a very famous Ukrainian volunteer, and by the way, I made a specific video about Ukrainian volunteers, and Sergei, of course, was a part of that video. He's running fundraiser in order to buy 3 Bayraktar drones, Bayraktar TB2, and maybe you know that Lithuania managed to raise money for 1 Bayraktar, and we are now raising money for 3 Bayraktars. So if you want to participate, please, links in description, and thank you in advance. So that's all for today, guys. Thank you for having me, and I see you in the next video.